Good evening. Good evening, my people. Tonight we are back. It's been a while, it's been a couple of weeks. We needed a little break. Um, what's going on? We had the night of the Poly Pimps on September the 13th, and we had an amazing turnout. It was really nice. Just pretty much what we expected. And the amount of people that showed up, the variety of people that showed up was pretty amazing. From newbies in the poly world, the poly community, the poly lifestyle, to people who are not quite newbies, but have been in for a little while and still uh, learning. There were some poly curious people in there, not sure yet what they want, trying to decide which direction they want to go. And then, of course, we had the veterans. So it was an amazing night. Night of the Poly Pimps. It was definitely an amazing night, and we are looking forward to having the next one. We want to thank everybody for joining tonight. Um, we will be talking sexual health this evening because it seems to be a big topic of conversation everywhere. And I think we definitely need to keep talking about it with our children, our friends, our families. I don't think we talk about sexual health enough. So, yeah. So, welcome back to the Poly Pimps. Tonight it is me, but we are going to be joined a little bit later by um, Dr. Travis. We're also going to be joined by Krystle. And they've both been on here before to talk about sexual health and answer all the questions that the audience had and pretty much guide us in this crazy world that we live in. Um, and then later on, we are going to have Sky join us. Yeah, tonight it's just me and you starting. So, welcome back. Welcome. We thank you for sharing our podcasts with your friends. Thank you for sending us the questions. Um, we are here tonight to talk about sexual health. So, what are you doing to protect you and your partners or partner? Depends on how many you have from getting infected. So, that's the main question. And how to uh, detect early signs and symptoms of STDs. So that's what we're going to be discussing tonight. Are you guys excited? Um, we will be posting the link in the comment section if you want to join the studio. Let's see, let's do that right now. If you want to join the conversation, be part of the conversation. You can actually be on camera if you want to. If you don't want to be on camera, then you can just come on with your voice only. However, you want to show up, we would like to welcome you to this conversation. Send the link to a friend, a family member. Even if they're not interested, they should be because this is a topic of conversation. And as adults, Actually, it would be good for, younger folks as well. But for the adults, because I see so many of us being messy out there. So share it with a friend so they can come and listen, so they can learn how to protect themselves against everything that's out there. Because I go on social media and I am part of a lot of different groups of women only, groups of polyamory, um, just regular uh, Haitian groups, and everybody at some point have posted about STDs. And typically it's more in the sense of shaming, right? It's always, oh, so and so's gonna give you this, or if you do this, if you sleep with how many people, then you're gonna catch something. But what we fail to do is inform people, educate them, raise awareness. There's a way to do things. Raise awareness on how to go about protecting yourself, because we always think it is. Before I continue, this is for a mature audience. Before People always think it's just penetration that is an act of sex. But the second that you decide you're gonna kiss somebody, you are engaging in activities that can lead to you catching something. Now, I personally don't think any STIs, STDs are to be shamed for. It's just like catching anything. When you catch a cold, when you catch the flu, when you have cancer, when you have something, like, I don't think anybody shames anybody for whatever disease that they end up getting. But somehow, if it's a sexual disease, everybody gets shamed for it. So I think we need to do better, unlearn the awful things that we have learned in the past, because I want to think that we are evolved people, a little bit more exposed to better education, better information, better technology, better resources. So we should do better at educating ourselves and other people. So I am waiting on my guests to jump on the live for the time being. We are just gonna discuss a little bit. For the people who have never watched our podcast, we are the Poly Pimps. My other half is missing right now, but she will be here at some point. But we will be joined by two professional guests tonight to help educate about STDs. But if you are watching for the first time, we are the Poly Pimps. My name is Me Too. I am polyamorous, which means um, many loves. You can have different relationships, multiple relationships, openly with the consent of everybody involved. And there are different facets of polyamory. We think that talking about sex and sexual health is very important in any relationship dynamic, but especially in a um, dynamic, multiple people dynamic, because you are having different partners. Some of them you may be sexual with and others not, or you may be sexual with all of them. You may choose to use barriers with some of them, and with others you don't. So we all need to learn about what to do and how to protect ourselves. So for those of you who have joined, What is your take on STDs, STIs? Have you ever dealt with somebody who you know had an infection and was open to talking about it? Was it something minor? Um, what is your experience? I've come across a lot of different people, and it only takes once because we always think it's because somebody's sleeping around. That's why they end up with an STI and STD. But most of those cases that I've seen, or people who are going online and complaining that they caught something, it's not because they were sleeping around. It only took one person to give it to them. And a lot of times it's usually a married woman who is crying because she trusted her partner. She trusted her husband to be faithful in their monogamous relationship, but he wasn't. I'm not saying it's just the man, but most of the time you see a woman online crying that her husband gave her this, gave her that. There are so many different things, and there are so many different ways to catch something, to get infected. Recently, in a women's group, there was this person that posted something about prep, and her caption was basically to learn about prep, and it's prescribed to high risk people. And I asked, who are those people? To which she responded, gays, just about like pretty much different groups of people because they consider those people to be promiscuous. But it's like, I mean, I had to say something because I feel like the moment that you choose to engage with somebody, you are a high risk. Maybe some other people are higher risks than you, but the second that you decided you were going to kiss somebody, you can get infected with something. They can pass on something onto you. Um, so I did not agree with her statement. I didn't really go back and forth with her. I just think that if you're going to try to educate somebody or other people out there, you need to do it right and not marginalize anybody. So if you're talking about prep, anybody can be on prep. It's going to be that person's decision um, to protect themselves. So that's one thing we will talk about later on. Um, hey, Yaya, thank you for joining. Yaya said, "I never been with someone knowingly with a STI. I was involved in an open relationship and had an interaction with the couple that infected me with something minor. I lost trust in involving myself with couples." Okay, I get that. Um, my question to you, Yaya, did you think about testing before you engaged with that particular couple? And that's one thing we do not talk about enough is getting tested before you engage sexually with someone, with anybody. Even if you plan to use barriers, it's always a great idea to get tested because a lot of times, if somebody has something already and you don't, vice versa, you will know for sure what it is. And really, it should be the person's choice. Don't make my choice for me. Inform me of what's going on, and I can decide if I want to deal with it or not. Because again, the STIs are not necessarily something that, obviously, if you have something that is active, you definitely want to refrain from being sexually active with anyone because you will pass it on. And I don't think it's going to be pleasant for you. And I don't think it's going to be a good look if you have any kind of active sore or whatever it may be from whatever it is. So Do you guys get in the habit of testing before you engage with somebody sexually? I personally didn't used to do that. It wasn't necessarily a practice for me until I became polyamorous. Because even though we talk about it, we never actually do it. And most of the time, it only takes the guy to say, "Do you want to be my girlfriend?" If you were using protection, you stop using protection. Yes, that's my boyfriend now because I've talked to so many, and I was the same way. I'm not gonna like shame anybody or, just say things, but we, I personally wasn't raised in a culture where you even talked about sex. And then on top of that, you didn't talk about testing. And even these days, some people still get offended if somebody asks them to get tested before they engage sexually. Or if a woman carries condoms around, people may think that they're just promiscuous or they're just sleeping around. That's why they have condoms with them. It's always there are always a lot of stigmas, so I can see why some people are still hiding from doing a lot of stuff. But at the end of the day, you should always get tested, even if you just got a fresh test. I don't think it's anything wrong with it to ask somebody to go get tested if you're thinking of getting involved with them sexually. Um, and like you said, yeah, most of things are usually minor. I feel like the major things that people are afraid of are typically can be managed with medication. Obviously, we don't want the inconvenience of having to treat or trying to cure anything, but most of the time, it's more the stigma that we are afraid of than the actual infection itself. So, we are waiting on our guests to get here. Um, Give me one second. So, yeah, um, just a couple of questions on the table. How often do you get tested? And do you get tested? Do you request an STI or STD test from your partner the second that you decide you guys are going to be sexually active with each other? Answer me those questions, audience. But yeah, thank you again for being here. Um, we are um, waiting. We are waiting a lot tonight. But yeah, so we are back. We have done this, we have talked about this topic before, and people continue to ask us to come back with it because there's always more questions. There are always more questions, and they always want more information on STIs and STDs. And we are willing to talk about them. I haven't found a guest yet that would be willing, like, let's say somebody who might be infected with something. Because most of the time, I feel like people are more afraid of HIV and HSV rather than anything else, even though some of the other stuff, they can be pretty critical if you don't take care of them, because some of them you don't even know that you have them. So, all right. And Hey,
How
hey,
are you
Krystle.
guys?
Hey, Krystle, how are you?
I am great. I am so sorry that I'm late.
No, no. Thank you for joining me tonight.
Of
Welcome back to the
course.
Poly Pimps. It's
I'm so
always,
glad to be back.
thank you. It's always such a pleasure
I missed
to
you
have you.
guys. Same here. If
Yes,
I look a little bit wild, you are catching me in my usual habitat,
listen, you look amazing, and
aka
I love
just
those
out of the field.
glasses.
Thank you.
And
Thank
that shirt is giving me
Yes, gay
great
as
vibe. I love it.
fuck. I am here. I am queer. I ain't going anywhere. How are
We're not
you?
going anywhere. I am great. So yeah, I was just chatting a little bit while
Hmm.
I was waiting for you guys
Yes.
about just the STIs. Because the topic tonight is
Yes.
early signs and symptoms of
Hmm.
STDs.
Yes.
Um, I guess let me see. We have a second comment. Ideally prior, however, it is not always feasible considering spontaneity. So
Yes.
I'd always use barrier. So
Always.
I had asked questions. Do you guys get in the habit of testing? And do you always ask a partner to get tested before you guys get sexually active?
Right. That's so important. And I actually just met with the Department of Health today. I meet with them quite frequently to, like, check up on the community, make sure people who are testing positive for anything are getting treatment.
Yes.
And I told the lady, because she had been celibate for quite some time, and I
Mm-hmm.
told her, I said, it is a jungle out there. You cannot even really delve into your full human emotions and fall into the spontaneity if you really want to be careful. You
Right.
can't even do that anymore. You really need to, hey, I know it's getting hot and heavy, but damn it, let's put a stop to this right now. Let's
Right.
go to the clinic. Like, it's really that bad. So I mean,
Yes.
but once again, that is why I try to express to my patients that we have to be sex positive. We have to be aware that if we are being sex positive, STDs gonna happen possibly.
Yes.
Things gonna happen, period, if we're not protecting ourselves.
Mm-hmm.
So we have to be ready to be adults, get
Yes.
cures and treatments, and go do our thing. You know what I mean?
Yes, I
Yep.
totally agree.
Hmm.
What I was saying earlier, most of the time we only consider sex the act of penetration,
Right, right,
and we only think we are exposed only
right,
if we have the act of penetration.
right. Hmm.
But
Right.
we talked about this before,
Hmm.
where there are things that you can get from saliva and different
Yes,
body fluids.
absolutely.
So why don't you talk to us a little bit? We're gonna start like let's start up here,
Hmm.
and then we can get down the rest of the body,
Well,
because
you know
the
what?
most simple things.
It's all connected if you think about
Mhm.
it, because we grown here, so I could talk some grown shit, right?
Yeah,
We
yeah,
are licking, sucking, and doing everything all over.
yes.
So really, we can't start from the top or the bottom because it's all connected. So that's the way I look at it, at least.
Well, the reason why I said we can start from the top, like more
Mhm.
like with the kissing.
Oh yes, for sure. So something that I learned, and I'm sorry, my dog popped off her surgical collar, and I was like, if I let
Oh,
this go, we're gonna have a problem tomorrow. So,
I'm
yep.
sorry.
No, it's okay. I'm putting it right back on her. So that's why
Okay,
I'm fighting. Okay, she's free to go.
you're fine.
So something that I've learned in my 2 years, because I still feel like I'm a baby nurse when it comes to infectious diseases. So I'll
Mm-hmm.
give you guys my background real quick. So I've been in psych nursing for about 13 years. I've been a nurse for 16 years altogether, but psych nursing was my baby. And then I delved into infectious diseases because my kids saw a thrift store and they're like, Ma, that thrift store offers HIV testing. You should see if they have a nurse job there. And I'm like, yeah, sure, whatever. And they did, nurse manager. So I've been in the field of infectious diseases, public health, sexual health for basically 2.5 years, and I have learned so much so much, and I can't wait to share it. So,
Yes.
when it comes to the kissing, you have your herpes, you have your chlamydia and gonorrhea, you have your warts that can come from the herpes and sores. These are the most typical things that you would get from kissing. Um, with kissing, like you can, so a lot of times people, we mention the dental dams. Now, when I
Mhm.
speak to my good friend Travis Walker, he'll
Mhm.
say that no one is using dental dams. And I don't want to say no one is, but I
Very
feel like
little.
very little, very, very little. Like, I find it highly unlikely that a person's going to be like, oh, yes, I have a dental dam
Just
in my
wait.
pocket.
Yeah, let me
Let me
put it
pop
in.
this out so I can give you a kiss. Like, let's be real, okay? And that's when that spontaneity kicks in, right? Because this
Yes.
person is hot. Y'all just had the best date ever. And if you live in the queer world, it was probably a 3-day date. Okay?
Mhm.
Y'all done kissed and did whatever. So, hello. No
Yeah.
one's walking around with a dental dam, right?
I'm
So, with,
actually walking around with a dental
uh,
dam, but I've never
you
used one.
see? You see what I'm saying? You got it just in case, right?
I
Exactly.
somebody recently gave me a
Hmm.
couple because I was like, "Oh, I'm very curious," and they're like, "Oh yeah,
Right.
have a couple." And
Hmm.
I've been thinking about, oh, maybe one day I'll pop it
Right.
in and try to use it. But do I really think about that?
Exactly.
I
Right.
don't even really know how it works,
You
honestly.
know where I could honestly see it, and I wish I had got some, and I said I was going to do that next time, but it's okay. Whenever we chat next time, I'll actually have some supplies and stuff. So I would like to hope that people might be using these at like maybe sex parties, but maybe not. Because like the way that I can tell that there's been a sex party is when I have a specific group of patients come in. And I'm like,
Uh,
oh, if this person's coming in between their usual appointment and I see another one, I'm like,
mm,
oh.
you know
And
what
I
just
ask, you know
happened.
me, I'm gonna ask the questions. What went down this weekend? And sometimes they don't even let me ask. They're like, girl, you know what happened. And I'm like, tell me the details. And why didn't you invite me so I could have handed out condoms and some doxypep? Like, let's be real.
Right,
So
right.
it's one of those situations. So that's the situation with the mouth, from what I know in my 2.5 years of knowledge. So moving down, if we want to go straight to the genitalia and
Mhm,
the rectum,
mhm.
let's go to rectum first. So if you
Okay.
are engaging in anal sex,
Mhm.
you can, unprotected especially, you can contract chlamydia and gonorrhea rectally. You can definitely get your HPVs, your HSVs rectally. These things can happen. Um, with that, I always try to tell my patients with anal sex, I don't know, for me, because like I feel I don't like to speak on things that I'm not 100% aware of. I
Mhm.
am not an anal sex professional, but I would like to give the advice that one, let's protect the area with barrier protection. Two, let's make sure, I have a guest here, let's make sure that we are making sure the area is lubricated is very important. The rips and
Mm.
tears can cause a lot of additional situations beyond STDs. I've had patients have anal fissures and things that, ripping, and I have to send them to, the proctologist and the colorectal surgeon to get things repaired. These things really do happen.
Wow.
Yes, so I always recommend lubing and barrier protection. And also take it easy. Why are you fucking for 12 hours? Okay, let's be real. Like, I have patients who come to
It's
me
a
with that, and
marathon.
I'm like, come on, please stop. Like, why?
It is a
Yes,
marathon.
it is a marathon, apparently. I was like, maybe I'm just too queer now to really understand how this works anymore. I'm so far removed. I'm like,
So
yeah, I'm
one
good.
question I have,
Mhm.
I guess I'm gonna be stopping you from time to time to
That's
kind of ask
absolutely
questions
fine.
so I
No
don't lose
problem.
my train of thoughts.
Right.
Um, you said basically,
Hmm.
tears and stuff like that because we're still in the rectal area.
Yes.
And so what if this person is
Hmm.
infected with something, right? Because we
Right.
usually say most of the time is when you have an active um outbreak or whatever
Yes.
breakouts that you can infect somebody. So what
Right.
if that person doesn't really have an active you know outbreak
Hmm.
and they have anal sex, but they have um
Breaks.
breaks. Yeah. So,
Right.
and they
Mhm.
were not using protection. Can they still pass on um what they have?
HIV. So yeah, if so, if let me clarify the question. So you're asking if the person has breaks rectally or on
Hmm.
maybe their penis or rectally.
Rectally. So
So
let's
if they
say
have
that
like
person
bare,
that needs to go to the surgeon, right?
right. Mm-hmm.
So they did not have an active anything at the
Hmm.
time, but because they have some cuts now,
Hmm.
um, can they pass on whatever they have
Well,
to their
if they don't have anything, they shouldn't be able to pass on anything.
right?
But let's say they did have something.
Mm-hmm.
The anal cavity is a very highly vascular area, highly vesseled area. So it's very easy to bleed. And that's why we always tell people you want to eat your fiber so everything can come out smoothly. And also, if you're inserting things, we
Mm.
need it to be smooth. We need you to lubricate. We need you to not be so aggressive and not be fucking for 12 hours. We need these things so that you don't have to deal with the rips and the tears and etc. You know what I
Right,
mean? Yeah.
right.
So if they don't have anything, they shouldn't necessarily be able to pass anything on. Maybe a little irritation, depending on how the person that is inserting,
Mm-hmm.
that's a possibility. Like, let's say, because people, we grown, so I'm going to talk grown shit once again.
Right,
Disclaimer,
right.
disclaimer. I'm a very
Yes,
blunt and direct person. So,
yes.
um,
Mature audience
if
here.
y'all are right, thank God for that, right? Because I don't have to be too, you know. So we are we are two people. We are having anal sex. We're fucking. We fall asleep.
Mm-hmm.
Blood has a and let's say this person that was receiving
Mm-hmm.
is bloody anally.
Mm-hmm.
Blood has a tendency to kind of damage the skin. It's something that's supposed to be inside of a body cavity, not
Mm-hmm.
necessarily out. So now it's on the person who was inserting. They may wake up with a little bit of skin irritation if they
Oh,
didn't wash off. They fell asleep. It happens, right? And if
right,
they
right.
use barrier protection, this is skin to skin. It can get messy. So I could see something like that happen, a little skin irritation, a little discomfort, and depending on if they're sleeping together for 12 hours, it could be some friction, a little burning going on. But if the person who is receiving does not have anything, they shouldn't be able to pass anything.
I'm still baffled that somebody can fuck for 12 hours. I mean,
Yes. I get
that's a very
stories.
long time. I want to meet that person to
Oh my
learn
God. Like,
their
I have so
secrets.
many of them. If it wasn't a HIPAA violation, I'd be like, girl, these are my people because they have the best stories ever. Like, I literally don't ever have to have sex again because the stories I get, I'm like, you know what?
You're
I'm gonna be
satisfied.
I'm gonna become a nun, and also I am a holy angel because I have done nothing near. I am so angelic.
Oh my God. Yeah, I'd like to amount to that kind of
Oh, I'm
energy
telling
one
you.
day.
Oh,
Yeah.
listen, just get you a little job at DOH. You're gonna live your best life. I tell people all the time. With my job, I am living my best life because I don't have to go to no parties. I get all the party information. I get all
Man, I have
everything.
to say though, like the last few times I went to the doctor,
Hmm.
the questions that were on that question, I'm like,
Yeah,
I mean, they go deep, they ask
yeah. They're
everything.
starting to go
It,
deeper.
like when I was answering the questions, I'm like, do I really have to answer those questions? I'm guessing yes. Do
Yeah.
you exchange sex for money, for
Right, right,
drugs? You do
right,
this, you do that. And I'm just like,
right.
over the years, the questionnaire has definitely gotten very detailed to
Absolutely.
cover every area.
Absolutely. So it's, what I like to accredit it to is I'd like to accredit it to the fact that more understanding is going into public health and sexual health.
Hmm.
We have more knowledge, we have more technology, we have more, like, to this day. So what you're describing when they ask like these specific questions, those are called risk factors.
Hmm.
What is your, are you highly sexual to the point where you're so sexual that it's considered high risk behavior? And should we like flag your chart because we need to be like, we need to really help this person in their sexual life. Not to say that anything's wrong with a highly
Right.
sexual person, but if this person, if you present to me as a highly sexual or promiscuous is the word that they like to use, but I call
Right.
them high risk behavior sexual person, my
Mhm.
automatic go to is, wait, before you leave my office, want some condoms? Before you leave my
Mhm.
office, you want some
Mhm.
lube? And I be buying the good shit too. I get the KY because my company
That's
wouldn't let me get anything else. I
awesome.
get the good KY. So I'm like, you want a bottle of lube? Um, how often do you have sex? Is some of the questions I ask. Are you having
Mhm.
sex with one or more partners? These
Yes.
are risk
Last.
factor questions. So they consider those people to be highly sexual. So a person, for example, who maybe has one partner and
Mhm.
they will document it as such. Oh, this person has one partner. They deny STD testing at this time because they've been with this person for 14 years. And I literally put exactly what they tell me. Girl,
Yeah.
ain't nobody else fucking me but my husband. I'll be like, patient stated, ain't nobody
Right.
but you know what I mean? So
Yes.
it's very clear, and they don't want STD testing, and that's fine too. So that's the range we have: the high risk and the low risk, and then there's the no risk, the people who are not having sex at all. So
Mhm.
we don't, we're not too worried about them.
But I'm always like curious as to why somebody who's sexually active would refuse a free STD test anyway.
Right.
I'm like, if it's free, give it to me. Like,
Period.
if
Yep.
now obviously if I'm gonna spend $150 and I don't have any doubts in my partner, then I'm gonna be like, I don't know, let me think about it. But
Right.
if you tell me that test is any test you're doing for me for free, I'm gonna say yes.
Period. And it could be too fear.
True.
Truthfully, I think a
'Cause
lot of people are fearful, but I try to educate folks that, listen, I don't know. I've been working in healthcare for a long time, but I think, truthfully, your best bet is to be as honest as possible with your healthcare provider. Like, if you're not going to be honest with anybody else in the world, be honest with your
right.
healthcare provider and your lawyer.
Yes. Oh,
Period.
yes.
Okay?
Absolutely. Yeah,
That's
well,
it.
so that's another thing too.
Hmm.
Um, I was saying earlier that I am part of different groups on social media,
Hmm.
and there's this particular group of women that I'm part of, and I'm talking like this is a gigantic group of
Right.
over 100,000 women in there, right? And
Hmm.
a lot of times there's a lot of shaming around STDs and this and that.
Right.
And people will come and complain how somebody give them this, give them that. But
Right.
I think I tried to to post 3 times about
Hmm.
STDs and awareness and things like that. "Hey,
Right.
what are you doing to protect yourself?
Right.
Let's talk about this. Let's talk" no, they are not interested. I realize it's a group of clout chasers in there. It's
Hmm.
like, "Oh,
Hmm.
so you guys prefer to complain and
Yeah.
shame other people,
Hmm.
um, and play the victims
Right. Right.
rather than, hey, let's talk about this. Let's see how we
Let's talk
can
about
do better
prevention.
because the same stories keep coming over and over. And it's like, okay, so
It's
when are
so
we going to
weird.
learn?
Exactly. Like they have, I don't know who owns the group, but sometimes it's people's maturity level too. Like we do have a responsibility to our fellow human being to, if I know something, I'm supposed to show you and vice versa. So I feel like in situations like that, when I see people just wanting to complain, I'm like, well, girl, keep your STDs now. Y'all just gonna have to
Right.
figure it out. Because I know that
Exactly.
I'm an abundance of resources and
Yes.
you want these resources or not. You know what I
Right.
mean? It's
Yeah.
free. It's free when you're on social media. As far as my company, they got to cut that check. But you
Right.
know what I mean? Like,
Right.
yeah,
That's
so
awesome.
it's just lack of maturity. And truthfully, like when I have conversations, even with my patients that are positive for anything, they're like,
Mhm.
girl, it's well, for people who have the chronic, long term positivity where it's, they can't
Mhm.
get rid of the disorder right now, at
Mhm.
least. Their attitude is always like, girl, no one should be getting HIV. No one should be getting STDs right now. The
Right.
way that we have progressed, but I tell them too, yes, we have all this technology, but sometimes people really just don't know. There's people being born every day. They have to be taught. And let's be real, did we learn anything from our parents regarding this stuff?
We did not, but remember, we
Yep.
also did not have the internet.
Right.
We have
Exactly.
the internet, and the time
Mhm.
where I grew up, we didn't have sexual
Mhm.
sexual talk in
Right.
school, at
Right.
home. We didn't have that.
We didn't
Now
have that.
they do that in school, and I
Right.
feel like people are more open to talking about sex and
Yeah.
everything around it. So
Mhm.
for me, for now, younger folks, I understand because again, we're learning. But
Yeah.
grown folks my age, even people
Mhm.
in their 30s,
Right.
are still going around crazy
Mhm.
and not doing what
Right.
they're supposed to be doing.
Right.
And I'm just
Right.
like, what are we doing? We're too grown to be doing that kind of stuff.
It's true. It's so true.
So
Yeah.
it's not that people don't know, because just in one of those groups recently, somebody was talking about, they posted somebody's picture and said, "Oh, this person
Mhm.
was with somebody who had HIV and
Right.
she has it too, yada yada." And I'm like, okay, so we're talking about this with you saying watch out for this person. Why don't you tell those people,
Mhm.
hey, there are some preventions that
Right.
out
Right.
there. Tell
Right.
them about prep. Then this lady's like, well, prep hasn't been around for that long. I said, I understand that. No matter how long it was, it's been at least a year. Why don't you put that under your comment
Right.
instead of like trying to shame and do a lot of the stuff? So look at
Mhm.
it. You have this information, but you're not sharing it. You're just here to
It's
talk
true.
crap,
It's
you know?
true. Yep. It's
So I'm
true.
like, that's how we raise awareness, by
Mhm.
letting people know, hey, this is what you can do to protect yourself.
Right. Right.
So, but yes, let's continue with our education.
Sure. Yes.
Yes, from the rectum to the vaginal area now.
Right. So vaginal, with there you can definitely get your HSVs, your HPVs, and let's not forget about our syphilis. These are
Yes.
things that this is real life stuff. I try to tell. Oh man, it's with women. I would say it's harder for women to contract HIV. I'm still trying to understand the dynamics behind why it's harder for women. I'd like to think that it's because of the fact that women actually do more preventative care from what I'm feeling, just from
Okay.
what I'm seeing too.
So
And
do you see more
so
women testing than men?
I would say, so like, let me put it to you like this. I have more male patients than female patients, like drastically more. Like if I had to give you a number off the top of my head, I would say maybe about 90% male, 10% female
Okay.
regarding like preventative care and HIV care. But when I look at doctors' offices in general, like I got a lot of friends that work in healthcare, they have more female patients in regular doctors' offices in general.
Okay.
So the preventative care is getting taken care of by the women. The men are
Yeah,
only really coming in when shit has hit the fan, and sometimes they're not even doing that. So I
that's
think that's why it's
true.
harder for women to get it. Honestly, no shade to the men. I love you guys, but
That
oh, I
is true
need y'all to do
because
better.
when you look at it too, most of the men, their wives have to make their appointments, dental appointments,
Yes.
regular appointments, and that's why so many men end up with high blood pressure and this and
Oh
that,
yeah.
because
Yep.
they don't go get checked at
Right.
all.
Right.
And a lot of them, if they're single, forget it, because now they
Right.
don't have a woman who's setting up those appointments anymore.
Right.
So that's a shame. I hope, I have boys and I'm trying to teach them to be
Right.
just an interdependent adult. Not
Yes.
like there's no man, there's no woman. You
Yep.
need to be able to take care of yourself. That's it. Nobody's gonna
Right.
take care of you.
Exactly. It's so true. That's absolutely true. I think that's so important. Like even like I have all girls. You got all the boys and I got all the girls.
I know, right?
So like I always tell them like you just got to know how to do certain stuff, honey. Like you might have to know how to fix your car, and if you don't know how to fix your car, you got to know who you can trust to fix your car. Like you got to
Yeah,
know certain things. You got to know the basics, so when you go to the mechanic, you don't sound silly. Like
yeah.
just oh, I have no clue what I'm doing, damsel in distress. Now you have $1,000 fee or just
Right.
changing their backlight. You know what I mean? Like, so
Right.
yeah, that stuff is important. We're doing great jobs here.
Yes, yes.
Absolutely. Yep.
So, um, talk to us about, I'm gonna call it the bigger beast, just
Mhm.
because most of the time that's what people are most afraid of
Mhm.
is HIV.
My
How
favorite.
popular it has it become,
Mhm.
and how do you get infected, and how can you prevent it?
So let's start with how popular it has become. I feel like it's just been popular since the 80s, honestly. Um, a lot of people tend to think that it's decreased, but the prevalence is still there. People are still getting infected every single day on an average. Like, I can only speak for where I work,
Mhm.
because I don't have, as usual, I'm never prepared, right? I don't have statistics in front of me, though I can pull some up on
Mhm.
Google. In my clinic, I would say we are getting new patients every week,
Wow.
sometimes every day. I get
Mhm.
referrals nonstop. So this is still a very real thing. However, it's nothing to be afraid of, because back in the 80s, when HIV and AIDS first hit, everyone was dropping like flies because people didn't necessarily understand what they were up against. So, pardon me, what I could do is give you a breakdown of what HIV is. It's a human immunodeficiency virus. And what that means is your immune system is now being targeted by a virus that is basically depleting your CD4, your viral load, and making these numbers, your T cells, go down. These are immune related cells.
Okay.
So keep in mind, we all have an immune system. So
Mhm.
we all can get blood work done that will show us the breakdown of our cells and how well they are immune wise and how bad they are immune wise. Um, when it comes to HIV, my best advice, like, a lot of people are like, oh, I got an HIV test, I'm negative, yay. I have been, as the baby nurse that I am, I'm not even gonna let me not even call myself a baby nurse. I'm an OG, but
Yes.
you know, I try to be humble because
Right.
I think I might be a little cocky sometimes, and I be trying to humble myself. But in my little travels, I'll call
Mhm.
it, I have been realizing something that, because like I said, I got thrown into HIV, so I kind of had to learn a lot on my own. I didn't really have too much support,
Right.
except for like my immediate colleagues, like directly next to me, but other than
Right.
that, I didn't have like a bunch. I didn't have like a fellowship training or a residency. I was
Right.
just learning as I went by every single day. And so one
Mhm.
thing I came to the conclusion of today was we should not just be asking our providers for HIV antigen tests. We need the HIV test and a viral load test. And the reason
Mm.
why I say that is because when a person has HIV and they have not been on any medication for it, they will most likely show up with a viral load that's elevated. And any person that has a viral load more than 20 definitely has HIV. So if you're getting your testing, do your HIV and ask them for a viral load test. You
Mm.
combine those two, because sometimes people show up HIV negative,
Mhm.
but they have a viral load of 35. And then we know for sure this person is positive. Yep.
So why would they be
hmm
negative and show a viral load that's
So
higher than the
and so
20?
this is something I learned this week too. There's
Oh,
something called seroconverting. And what happens
I need to
is,
take notes. Hold
girl,
on.
I got you. I got you. So
Okay.
first of all, I also
All
want
right.
to say we have a great addition to our team. Aside
Mhm.
from Dr. Walker working with me, we
Mhm.
also now have Dr. Mel, and I'm so blessed because we're all like in the same age group, and we're all like these nerds that literally read our, you know, journals, medical journals, and we're all studying. And I'm like,
Yes.
it feels
I
good to be
love that
around
kind
people
of
who,
information.
yes, it's amazing information. So with seroconversion, basically, the basic way to explain this is the person's body is new to the HIV infection, and
Mhm.
their viral load is showing that, hey, they're positive, but because it's so fresh in the body, it hasn't necessarily hit the HIV antibody test where it's showing the antibodies
Ah,
for HIV. is the
Oh,
best, simplest way I could put it. Yeah.
that is
So
that is amazing. That's good to
absolutely.
know. I feel like
So
everybody
always
needs to
ask.
know this.
Absolutely. And you know what's so funny? Like I said today when I spoke to the young lady from DOH, I said to her, you don't know these things unless you work here. You know what I'm saying? So that's why it's our job, and that's why I'm so passionate about speaking. Like, so I'm taking my speaking to churches. I try to drag Travis with me. Like, hey, let's
Yes.
go speak at a church because,
Yes.
hello, sometimes people be screwing past her and they don't know how to protect themselves. And these things, I mean, these things have been going on for centuries. It's
Yes.
nothing new under the sun,
Yes.
and so we have to know how to protect ourselves. But with HIV, the way that it's spread, there's multiple different ways. It can be spread from mom to baby. It can be spread through sexual contact. Unfortunately, sometimes it's spread in a way where during the sexual contact, you may not know that the person is positive. Unfortunately, it can
Mhm.
happen if a person has sex forced on them, if their partner is not being completely honest, if
Mhm.
they're hiding a diagnosis and they're not taking pills, and so they're
Mhm.
not undetectable. Because if you're undetectable, you are untransmittable. So
Oh,
the goal for every HIV patient that we have at my clinic and any other clinic would be to get that person's viral load to under 20. So when you do
okay.
a viral load for a person who is,
You can keep talking. My
yeah,
computer
sure.
is like dying. I'm just grabbing my.
No problem. When we do a viral load for a person who's HIV positive and their viral load is less than 20, it shows up. That means that they're undetectable. So if they're having sex unprotected, it's actually okay because they cannot transmit it when they are undetectable. That's why we push for these patients to get seen every 3 months, and we keep them on medication, and it keeps their viral load
But
suppressed.
I would think though that
Hmm.
because I've heard being undetectable before,
Right. Hmm.
but I was not really sure like
Hmm.
how that presents for
Right.
somebody who says, okay, okay, let's get tested
Hmm.
before we engage sexually. I felt like, oh, maybe that person is still gonna show that they are HIV positive.
Right. So
No,
they,
that's
if they will most likely, even if they're undetectable, they can
okay.
show up that they're HIV positive. The thing is, that's why I always tell people, like, you just never know. Sometimes you'll get a false positive, but
Okay.
that's why we want to make sure that we're protecting ourselves. And this leads me into my next segue, which is PrEP,
Mhm.
because
Yes,
we can prevent all of this HIV stuff from happening. So
exactly.
you got your oral PrEP, you got your injectable PrEP. Everyone is eligible for injectable PrEP. Sometimes the insurance could be a pain in the butt, but I always tell people, fight with the insurance companies. You can lie to them, tell them you are a sex worker for money, because these are real life situations that are happening, and people are actually getting their stuff approved by saying, hey, I'm a sex worker for money.
Really?
Yes, yep,
But
this is
then
my job title.
doesn't that stay on your record?
I
Because now
mean,
they're gonna
it's,
charge you more money, no?
no, not necessarily through your health insurance. No, it, listen, when you need your insurance to cover certain things, you can tell them what you need to get it done. Yeah,
Okay.
definitely. Absolutely. You could say, and there's ways to say it, of course. Oh, I have a high
Absolutely.
risk sexual behavior, period. My
Okay.
partner is positive with HIV and I am in a relationship with them.
Okay.
I need to be protected. You know what I mean? So, yeah, there's
Okay.
multiple ways. I'm just dramatic because I'm a Scorpio. So, I'm going to always put the most dramatic thing down.
But no, I love it because we don't know that. We don't know how to
No,
deal with insurance companies. I
exactly.
think
It's
they're a
so
big
many things.
yeah, it's a big fraud, but
It's
don't
a
get me
big
started
fraud.
on
Oh my
that
God.
one.
Please.
Every
I
time I
know.
think about co-pays and everything, it's
It's
like I pay
ridiculous.
you every month and I don't use it, but yet you want me
Exactly.
to pay more when I need to use it.
And there's always a discount card. No matter what pharmacy you
Right.
go to, whatever medication you're trying to get, look up a discount copay card for that medication. There is one, and you can
Mhm.
get it. And always ask your pharmacist because you'll get a discount for real. And it might
Okay.
bring your medication balance down to zero, honestly.
Right. I've had that
Mhm.
before. I've had that before.
Yep.
But yeah, so let's
Mhm.
oh my God, the time is flying by. It's already
I
9:55,
know.
but I do want to have a little bit more.
Yes.
Um, so back to the same question, and then we're gonna jump back into prep.
Mhm.
Um, so that person who is showing undetected,
Mhm.
is it now their viral load that's gonna tell you if they're actually HIV positive or
So their viral load, if they're undetectable, their viral load is going to be less than 20. So
oh,
that won't be the giveaway. It would be the actual HIV test, the
okay.
HIV, the general fourth generation test, which will
But
let
you
you know positive.
okay. But so many people are still so afraid of people with HIV,
I know.
even though like recently I watched something on Facebook, and it's this couple. The lady, she has three girls, I think. None of them are HIV positive. She had it from a previous
Right.
husband.
Mhm.
And so the current husband doesn't have HIV, and people call him all kinds of crazy names because he married her because she's positive, he's negative. But it's it's mind-boggling because when people are not educated,
Yeah.
they repeat the stupidest things ever.
Yep.
And I cannot get with people who are not even open to information,
Yes. It's
you
scary.
know,
It's
because
scary. It
it
really.
is. And those people are more dangerous than anybody.
I say this all. You took the words right out of my mouth. I'm like, if people only knew that that form of hate is so damaging
It is.
to not just the community, but also, you know, like just to shed a like this. The stigma with HIV to me is this. It's similar to the stigma people have against queer people. Like I
Mhm.
hear, like unfortunately, my mother is extremely homophobic, and it's almost
Uh,
embarrassing
wow.
to be connected to a person
Right.
so homophobic. But
Hmm.
some of the things I hear, I'm like, oh my God, how could a person think this because a person is dealing with the same sex that they would be this almost equivalent to like a murderer or a pedophile? I'm like, how do you put the
Exactly.
two together? So when I see folks speaking negatively about patients and just people in general with HIV, I'm like, wow, look at you being perfect. I bet you don't have diabetes or any hypertension or any
Right.
type of allergies because you should be stigmatized too. Like it's a disorder. It is a disease, and no matter how a person obtained it, shit happens.
That's what I was saying
We have
earlier.
to have
How come
grace,
nobody gets shamed when they're diagnosed with cancer or
right?
the flu
The
or
flu-
whatever else, but somehow if you get diagnosed with something that is considered sexually
Right,
transmittable, then all
right.
of a sudden it's like, "Oh my God."
Yeah,
Like,
it's a huge stigma. It's just, there's so many layers to unpack when people are so, how could I put it, so judgmental. And a
right.
lot of times it's because sometimes they either want to be a part of certain things and they don't understand it. But to me, I'm like, how could you see a person that, at the end of the day, HIV is a chronic illness.
It
This is
is.
something that a person could get a basic infection from. I had, just to tell a quick story. I
Mhm.
have an awesome patient. I mean, this patient is just, all my patients are awesome, but what brings me the most joy in my hardest days at work, and I have a lot of hard, very, very hard days that it almost moves me to emotional states, um, is when my patients who were alive when the 80s was going on and
Mhm.
HIV first hit.
Mhm.
And to hear the stories from those people who were at that time in their 20s,
Mhm.
just turned 25, just started college, they're dancers, they're this, living their best life, and boom, they become afflicted with this new virus that no one knows anything about. Everyone is
Right.
terrified for their life. And so one of the stories that a patient shared with me was when his partner had tested positive and fell very ill.
Mm-hmm.
And when they were, he was basically going up to see him every single day at the hospital ward, and the nurses, everyone was gowned up and gloved up. No one knew what to do.
Right.
And so he would go see his partner every single day, and come to find out, something so basic took his partner's life. He was just like clipping his nose hairs and nicked himself just a tiny bit. But the infection from that, because once again, the immune system is affected
It's
by
so
this
weak.
virus,
Yeah.
it literally took him out within, I would say, less than 6 weeks. And
Wow.
so this is now 30, 40 years later. And this patient is telling me this story, and I'm just looking at him like, wow, that's a crazy story. Like, you need to write a book. Just a nick and a
Right.
person is gone. So I'm like, when we look at situations like that, like, who really sits there and says, you know what, I'm just gonna go out there and be a whore and just get HIV? Like,
Right.
no one's saying that. Like, this is a real disorder. Like, you literally, no one asked for cancer, just like no one asked for HIV, but we manage it to the best of our ability. And
Yep.
truthfully, you can survive the hell out of HIV. Absolutely.
Yes.
And live a full, long life and have children, and you deserve
Happy,
grace.
healthy life,
Period. Yeah,
It
you
it
deserve
is
grace.
very unfortunate that
Mhm.
we continue to stigmatize
Exactly.
any sexually transmitted disease.
At all. At all.
And
Because if we're stigmatizing it, we're really saying, like, to me, I don't know. I sit at the table with the cool kids, okay?
right,
We understand that STDs happen. We understand that HIV is real and happens, and we still fucking anyway. So
right,
the
exactly. We're
uncool
still taking the
kids,
risk.
we're still, you know what I mean? But the uncool kids are sitting there like, we don't do that. And I'm like, you know what? You guys really want to be down with the party, but
Mhm.
you guys are not sex positive. And really, you shouldn't even be having sex if you're not sex positive. Sit
Exactly,
at the
because
table with the kids. Like, they're
those are
clearly not
usually
adult
the
enough.
and those are usually the people who end up with something anyway because
All the
they
time.
don't want to talk about it. They not
Right.
knowledgeable on
At all.
anything. They
At
just want
all.
to just look at you and shame the ones that have it, and it's like,
Right.
oh, look at you, we're on the
Right.
same boat now.
Exactly.
So
Yep. It's true.
so let's go back to prep. Thank you so
Hmm.
much for all that information. It's
Of
like
course.
I mean, this is not your first time here, but I feel like every time it's like the first time. It's
I
like
love
so much
it. Oh, that
information
means
to
that
soak
it's
up.
so much information. Some days I'm like, oh, my brain. you
So
know?
I have to say,
Hmm.
you did 2 episodes with us,
Yes.
and we did. You and I afterwards we talked extensively,
Yes.
and you really inspired me
Hmm.
to just. I mean, I was already talking
Right.
about STIs and stuff, but
Mhm.
like now I can't shut up about it. And
I
every
love
time
it.
somebody brings up something
Mhm.
like more in a negative light, I'm always jumping in the conversation to
Yeah.
try and shed some light. Now, I know I'm not a medical professional, I'm not in the healthcare business, but
Right.
I know enough by talking with people like you,
Right.
doing some reading, listening to
Mhm.
some podcasts and things like that. I love it. Anything that has to do with the brain, then
Yes.
some behaviors and
Yes.
health. I'm
Yeah.
like, I am all for it.
Right.
Um, and typically I like to talk about things that are kind of like stigmatized and
Hmm.
shamed, I guess.
Yes.
I like to
Yes.
take on those things. But
Hmm.
you inspired me, and I ended up going to the health department, like we
Hmm.
talked about, and
Nice.
taking out prep.
So
And
cool.
it was a process,
Right.
but I am on it now and I am so excited. And I have peace of
Cool.
mind knowing that,
Exactly.
I am protecting myself and I'm doing everything that
Hmm.
I can do because I myself am responsible for this person.
Exactly.
I said nobody else.
Period.
Put it
That's
on
it.
anyone.
Because when we take responsibility for self, we're also protecting others, truthfully.
Yeah.
That's the
Yeah.
way we have to look at it. Like, if I'm accountable for self, I'm really being accountable for others. Now, this person
Exactly.
that I'm sleeping with can see. hey, yes, I'm on these
I'm
pills.
responsible.
I take them daily. Before we have sex, I think you should get on these pills so that we
Hmm.
can be even more. Or if you got something else going on, get on something else, to take care of
Yes.
whatever you got. So I don't get it. Yep.
I was pretty delighted to talk
Hmm.
to a couple of different partners and realize, oh, you
Yeah.
know me too. This
I
is
love
great.
that. That's
Yes.
so dope.
No, it
That's
is.
so
It's
dope.
pretty awesome. But you still
Mhm.
make sure that you're using barriers with the
Of
people that you're using
course.
barriers with, because
Yeah.
people think, oh, so if you want it, you don't have to do this. I'm like, there's a
Right.
lot more that can
Right.
happen than HIV. This is just a one thing,
Exactly.
so so thank you for that,
Of
because
course. So
truly
how
without
do you
the knowledge,
feel? How do
I
you
feel
feel like how
great.
was your first 3 months? Depending on how long you've been on
So
it.
I was a
Mhm.
little bit hesitant just because I'm
Mhm.
not a person who's usually on medication, because even when
Right.
I have a headache, it's like, oh, let me
Yeah.
die first and then I'll consider taking some meds for it,
Naturally,
right?
yeah, I get that.
Um,
Hmm.
so it,
Hmm.
I was definitely hesitant because I'm like, oh my God, what if it has really bad side effects? Now, I have to say, the first day that
Hmm.
my first dose, oh, it was not pleasant, but I
Right.
also took it on an empty stomach. I had a busy day at
Oh,
work.
big
I didn't eat
mistake.
much
Yep.
that day,
Huge
right?
mistake. Yep.
Ooh,
I
it
know.
was not pleasant.
Hmm.
And then I think that same week too, I ended up having a rash. So I don't know if that was related to it
Hmm.
or not.
Right.
But I only really had symptoms for a couple of days, maybe three
That's
days, and then
good.
everything went back to normal. And I've been on
Mhm.
it for about, I want to say, maybe a good 5 months by
That's
now.
good.
And it's so far so good. And I get free testing now. I don't have to pay for my testing anymore. I'm gonna go give me
Amazing.
all the free stuff.
Listen, that's what I'm talking about. You have to take advantage. And like I always tell folks, if you can't get to a sexual health clinic specifically, go to a Department of Health easily. They
Because they
have
have their
to.
own, they do have their own department. When I go up there, it's
Absolutely.
not a regular place,
Right.
it's, and it's amazing. I
Right.
love it. And I mean, they
Yeah.
offer me all kinds of stuff. Do you want this? Do you want that? Do you want this test? Do you want
Literally.
this vaccine? Do you want that vaccine? I'm like, I don't think I want all those vaccines, but they offer
Right.
them to me for free.
Yes, they
And
will.
also,
Mhm.
every single time that I'm leaving, they give me
Mhm.
like a gigantic bag of condoms,
Exactly. That's what,
male
yep, that's what my
condoms,
clinic does.
regular condoms, and
Hmm.
lubes. And I'm like, I have
Exactly.
enough to distribute to the whole world right
Yeah,
now.
seriously. And you know what? Ultimately, that's what I do. I be giving it out.
Yeah.
Like,
Oh yeah.
my wife knows, like, babe, you see these condoms in my bag, just know they not
Yes.
for me. It's going to somebody. You know what I
Yes.
mean? So they're just here. Like, I constantly have random stuff on me, lube all over the place. Like, this, I just have so much stuff from work. And I'm
Yeah. Don't let
always more
somebody
than willing
see
to
you.
share.
They're gonna be like, she's always ready to go.
Exactly. I know, right? I'm always ready to make sure y'all are ready to go.
Right.
For real. Yep.
So yeah,
So true.
yeah, so now I'm like trying to talk to everybody about prep and
Hmm.
prevention and this and that, but I think people are skeptical just like I was before.
Yeah.
But I
Yeah.
keep having the conversation because I feel like it's important. And if we're gonna engage with anybody
Hmm.
sexually, kissing people, inserting things, in
Right.
holes and everything, we need to
Right.
be responsible about the preventative part of it.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Exactly. It's so important. And like I tell people, something I think I had mentioned last time when I was here,
Hmm.
that little sore throat after a
Mm,
date night could be chlamydia or gonorrhea. It
right.
doesn't have to be the common cold. You kissed four strangers at Pride, you might
Hmm.
have something, and that's okay.
Right.
Just get it
Right.
taken care of. Don't
Just
sit
get
here
it taken
thinking
care of.
and I always tell people, like, no shade to the regular urgent cares, but they're not infectious disease specialists. So will
And
they know to check for certain things? Probably
I
not.
don't think so. They're gonna
They
check you
don't.
for The flu, they're gonna check you
It's
for strep
correct.
throat. They'll
Absolutely.
check you for everything else but that because
And
they
they
don't
will
want
treat
anything.
you for the strep throat, and you will feel
Right.
better thinking, my strep throat
It's
is
fine.
gone. And then
Yeah.
you'll start to resume the symptoms again after you finish the antibiotics because it's really chlamydia or gonorrhea or both.
Right.
You know what I mean?
Right.
So
Mhm.
I tell people, like, don't play yourself. If you know you're in these streets, do not expect a regular urgent care. No shade. I don't know if I should say their names, but the certain, who MDs,
Mhm.
the damn, I can't even think of any other ones. But all the little urgent cares and random urgent cares you see around, no, they're
Mhm.
not gonna help you
Yeah.
effectively. They will help you, but it won't be effective.
Yep.
You gotta
Exactly.
go to your departments of health. You gotta go to your Planned Parenthoods. You gotta
Mhm.
go to your simple health cares,
Mhm.
which, you gotta go to these places to get the specific care that you need to slay the STDs
Yes.
effectively. Yep.
Exactly.
Hmm.
Thank you for that.
Absolutely.
There's always so much in the
So
time. I know you just got home from work,
I know,
so
finally. I thought I wasn't gonna make it the way that things were going.
I know. I am so
Yes.
grateful. Thank
I'm
you
so
so much.
grateful as
You know,
well.
life has been life, and recently, for
Mhm.
even for the Poly Pimps, we've been all over the place. It's
Right.
been hard to coordinate the podcast, but
Right.
we are still hanging in there.
That's
We're
great.
gonna keep bringing you guys the information. So as usual, I think we may have to bring you back because
Way back. I
it's
can't
you know
wait.
we have so much to share, and this is not
Yes.
even like the little surface,
Right.
but
Right.
we know it's been over an hour, and again, you just got home from work after a long
Thank you
day,
for
and I
thinking of me.
truly, truly appreciate you
Of
for
course.
taking the time to do this with us. Oh, somebody said something. Let's do that real
Oh, okay,
quick.
sure. Let's look. Oh, thank you,
And
Maggie.
you kept it real, very informative, clear, and concise.
So
I learned a
kind.
lot, and me too. Thanks for a great topic, and show. Thank you, Maggie. Thank you so much.
Thanks,
So
Maggie.
let us plan for the next one.
For
And
sure.
yes, thank you guys for
Absolutely.
being here tonight. Thank you for the ones who participated with us. Don't forget to share our podcast with your friends,
Right.
your family, anybody who can benefit. Anybody will be able to benefit from this information. If
Yes.
you can't tell them exactly what it is, you have this recorded with
For
Masanya,
sure.
so you just share it with everyone.
I
So
put
thank
my
you.
Instagram in the chat, so if you
Yes,
guys ever want to
please.
hit me up, feel free. I do need to speak more about this stuff on Instagram. I've just been kind of like a hermit lately, just
Yes. What's
focused.
the Instagram? Let me add it so they
No
can all see it on
problem.
all our platforms.
It's at the Divine Comfy Couch because I literally am the Divine Comfy Couch. You
At the
can
Dubai.
sit with me. I will talk to you. I will pour into you and send you off
Yes.
into the world feeling divine.
I know
Literally,
I
that's how I
follow
am.
you. Um,
Yes,
but
yes,
I don't remember. Okay, so we put it in there. So
hmm
yes, so hopefully we will be back soon for another
yes.
session of
I can't
sexual
wait.
health because I it's one of my favorite topics.
Absolutely,
Sex
and
in general.
I will bring whoever I can. Dr. Walker wasn't able to join us today because he is so busy.
I
So
understand saving the world and doing the good deed,
literally saving the world and doing his thing with Simple
one
Healthcare.
patient at a time.
He's in these streets, honey, doing his big thing. So I
Yes.
I'm gonna reach out to a few folks just to see, like, hey, do you guys ever want to pop onto a podcast? So whenever you give me the dates, I'll reach out to them and see if they're down. And I might bring another doctor next time. I might bring another nurse, and we'll just chop it up.
I would love to have
Hmm.
a guest who is HIV positive and
Hmm.
willing to talk because I know some people are very open about it,
Yes,
willing
yes.
to talk about it. So if you can
Hmm.
find somebody like that, that would
I
be great
already
too.
have somebody. I
Okay.
already
Yes.
do. Yep,
So
I
it'll
will
be
absolutely hit her up.
all right. So the next session, I
And
cannot
she's
wait.
actually in your. She's in Georgia.
That's
Yes,
perfect. I would love
exactly.
that.
You'll love her. She's amazing.
Okay, that's great. So
Yeah,
I guess we already know what we're doing for the next one.
we got this.
Yes.
Absolutely.
Thanks. Oh, okay. So I see it. You
Mhm.
sent it to the private chat. Okay.
Oh, is it the private chat? Oh, okay, my bad.
I don't even know what that is, girl. I just saw the side, but it's all good. So
Right.
thank you again for being here, Masanya, and we
Of
will see you
course.
next time.
Alrighty. Much love, everybody. Have
Bye.
a
Have a
great
good
one.
night.
Me too.
Thank
Peace.
you. You too. Bye.
Alrighty. Stay well.
You too.